When my sister cut me out of her wedding, her exact words were, "You'd ruin the vibe." I was her only brother. So I packed my bags, turned off my phone, and vanished. Days later, my phone exploded. Missed calls, frantic texts, even a voicemail from grandma. Turns out the wedding I wasn't positive enough for had imploded. And now? They needed me more than ever. But I wasn't done teaching them a lesson yet. The screen opens on a soft, misty morning in Portland. The rain whispers against the window pane of a small, neat apartment. Inside, Daniel, 34, sits at the edge of his kitchen table, a half-empty coffee mug in hand. The early light casts long, faded shadows on the walls, and the quiet hum of the city stirs faintly beyond the glass. His phone buzzes on the table. He glances down. It's a message from Sophie. "Hey, just a heads up. You're not on the guest list for the wedding. We're trying to keep the energy light, you know? No drama. Hope you understand. Love." For a long moment, Daniel just stares at the screen, as if waiting for the rest of the message to arrive. An apology. A joke. Anything to make it less real. But it doesn't come. His breath catches slightly. He lets out a short laugh, dry, hollow. Cut to a close-up. His thumb hovers over the screen, then lowers. He doesn't reply. We follow Daniel as he walks to the living room, standing near a shelf lined with old family photos. He picks up one, 3 siblings laughing in the snow, bundled in coats, Daniel's arm around Sophie, their little brother Thomas grinning between them. The edges of the photo are frayed, but the warmth in it remains. The phone rings. "Mom." He answers, trying to keep his voice steady. "Hey, did you hear from Sophie?" The pause. "Yes," she says softly. "Don't be upset, Daniel. It's just one day. Let it go, okay?" Silence. "But just one day," he repeats, more to himself than her. But inside, it doesn't feel small. It feels like something breaking quietly without sound. Like a door slowly closing that he didn't know had ever been open. He hangs up gently. Sits back down. The coffee has gone cold. In that stillness, you can feel the years of invisible labor. All the times he showed up, fixed things, made peace, absorbed the anger no one else would. And now, when it mattered, he wasn't even counted. A quiet sigh. He puts the phone face down. Then, slowly, he begins to clear the table, alone with the quiet ache of being needed, but never truly seen. Fade out. The rain continues outside, a slow, rhythmic tapping on the windows. Inside, the apartment feels still, as if holding its breath. Daniel sits by the window now, legs drawn up, arms resting on his knees. He gazes out at the gray sky, his eyes distant. A weight lingers behind them, not just of today, but years of silent giving. The camera gently pans in on his face as memories begin to surface, not loud or dramatic, but soft and unshakable. Winter, 2 years ago. A flashback. Daniel wrapped in a thick coat, hauling boxes from Sophie's old apartment into a beat-up truck. Snow swirls around him, his breath visible in the frigid air. Sophie is inside, yelling over the phone, frustrated with movers that never showed up. Daniel doesn't complain. He just keeps working, hands raw, face flushed, because she needed him. Another memory. Sophie sits on a couch, eyes swollen from crying. Daniel hands her a check, his savings, to cover the debt from a scam she fell into. She hesitates. "Are you sure?" she whispers. He nods, smiling gently. "It's just money, sophomore. You'll be okay." She never paid him back. Never brought it up again. A heated argument between Sophie and their mother echoes through the walls. Daniel stands in the kitchen, listening. Moments later, he tells their mother that he was the one who canceled the dinner plans, taking the blame to give Sophie some breathing room. No one ever asked why he did it. No one said thank you. Back in the present, Daniel lets out a long breath, almost inaudible. He whispers to himself, bitterly but without rage. "If my presence is too negative." The pause. He swallows hard. "Then let's see how positive they feel without me." The words don't come from anger, but from exhaustion, the kind that builds over years of being the strong one. The fixer. The forgotten. He rises slowly, crosses to the drawer where old invitations and keepsakes are kept. He finds Sophie's earlier birthday card, cheerful handwriting, barely a sentence. He stares at it, then quietly folds it shut and places it face down. He doesn't cry. But in the stillness, there's a grief deeper than tears, the realization that love, when never returned, becomes something else entirely. A quiet absence, unnoticed by everyone but the one who gave it. Morning light filters softly through Daniel's bedroom blinds. It's a new day, but the heaviness from yesterday still lingers, like a fog refusing to lift. Daniel lies in bed, phone in hand, scrolling mindlessly, wedding posts, smiling faces, countdowns. Each one feels like a gentle jab, a silent reminder of exclusion. Then, without warning, he sits up. There's a quiet resolve in his eyes now, not anger, not sadness, just a calm, aching need to be somewhere else. Somewhere he isn't the forgotten son, the invisible sibling, the emotional glue that everyone leans on but no one sees. Cut to him at his desk, browser open, cursor hovering over images of soft turquoise water and quiet white sands. Tulum, Mexico. A small resort tucked between jungle and sea. No noise, no drama, just space to breathe. He hesitates for only a second before clicking book now. Cut to a montage, slow and thoughtful. Daniel tossing essentials into a carry-on. Removing a dusty passport from a drawer. Looking at a family photo briefly, then tucking it away in a drawer. Then, a close-up of his phone screen. He posts a photo, a stock image of Tulum's coastline, bathed in golden light. Beneath it his caption reads, "Positivity is easier to find in places where no one judges you for simply being there." Moments later, a message pops up, from cousin Lydia. "If that happened to me, I'd do exactly the same. I hope they realize what they've lost." Daniel stares at her message for a long time. A subtle softness crosses his face. A hint of warmth. He types a short reply. "Thanks, Joy. Just needed a little air." Cut to Daniel sitting on his small balcony, sipping coffee alone. The hum of morning traffic below is barely audible. He gazes out at the sky, more clear now than the day before. He isn't running away. He's letting go, not of love, but of the weight of always being the one who stays, who gives, who mends. And in that letting go, there is something almost holy. Freedom. The scene opens with the soft crash of waves and morning sun washing over the shoreline. Daniel sits alone at a small wooden table by the beach, a plate of mango slices and warm bread before him. The sea breeze tousles his hair as he closes his eyes, letting the salt air fill his lungs. No one is calling his name. No one is asking for help. There are no fires to put out, no tensions to soothe. Just silence. And space. A waiter passes by and greets him kindly. Daniel smiles back, not the half-smile he wears at family dinners, but a real one, small but honest. He takes a bite of fruit and looks out at the water, eyes softening. For the first time in a long time, he doesn't feel the weight of being needed. And surprisingly, it doesn't feel like loneliness. It feels like freedom. Cut to a quiet montage. Daniel walking barefoot along the shore, leaving footprints in wet sand. Reading a novel under a palm tree, not checking his phone once. Floating on his back in a sunlit pool, eyes closed, face relaxed. Voiceover, Daniel's inner thoughts. All these years I kept showing up, fixing things. Quietly absorbing blame, tension, chaos. Thinking that's what love looks like, to carry everything so others don't have to. But maybe love isn't always about sacrificing yourself. Maybe, sometimes it's about choosing yourself, without apology. Back at his room, Daniel lies in a hammock, watching the leaves sway gently in the breeze. He picks up his phone, scrolls past photos of wedding preparations he's no longer part of, and this time, his chest doesn't tighten. There's no anger, no longing. Just peace. This feeling, he whispers softly to himself, isn't revenge. It's release. And in that moment, Daniel smiles again. A real one. Because he's no longer waiting for someone to choose him. He's finally chosen himself. The late afternoon sun casts a golden hue over the beach. Daniel sits under a straw umbrella, a glass of passion fruit cocktail in his hand, ice clinking softly. The sound of distant waves and laughter from other vacationers fills the air, but his mind is quiet, peaceful. He sips slowly, letting the citrus linger on his tongue. Then the vibration starts. His phone, face down on the table beside him, begins to hum. Then again. And again. Then a continuous flurry of buzzes. Daniel picks it up reluctantly. 17 new messages. 6 missed calls. The first is from Mom. Daniel, please call me when you see this. Then Sophie, can we talk? It wasn't meant to hurt you. A string of others follows. Aunt Julia. Grandma. Even his cousin from Toronto he hasn't heard from in years. Some are worried. Some defensive. Some trying to smooth things over. Too late. Daniel scrolls slowly through the messages, expression unreadable. Then a soft, almost bitter chuckle escapes him, not from cruelty, but from clarity. He sets the phone down gently, screen still lit with incoming notifications. With a steady hand, he toggles Do Not Disturb. The phone goes silent. He leans back into the lounge chair, eyes lifted to the sky turning amber. The breeze moves through his hair like a quiet affirmation. Around him, the world goes on, unbothered, warm, free. Voiceover, Daniel's thoughts. They chose to cut me out, to keep the air positive. They didn't think twice about what that meant for me. They wrote me out of their moment, and I let it define my worth. But here now, I see it differently. He looks out at the sea, the edges of the horizon beginning to blur with dusk. Maybe peace isn't waiting to be let back in. Maybe it's realizing you never needed their permission to breathe easy. He smiles, not coldly but with quiet strength, and takes another sip of his drink. The sea had begun to settle into its evening rhythm. Gentle waves rolled in, slow and steady, brushing against the sand like a whisper. Daniel sat at the edge of the beach, his cocktail untouched beside him, the glass sweating quietly under the soft light of dusk. He hadn't planned to check his phone. For the past hour, he had kept it face down, muted, out of sight and mind. But something made him glance at it, maybe habit, maybe intuition. One notification had slipped through. A message from Lydia. Dan, everything fell apart. Henry walked out. During the reception. Daniel blinked, not quite understanding. Then the next message arrived. He and Sophie had a huge fight. In front of everyone. He accused her of still loving someone else. She didn't deny it. He just left. He stared at the screen, feeling neither shock nor vindication. Only a quiet heaviness settling in his chest. His sister, the center of all that noise, the bride who had asked for a positive atmosphere, without him, now left standing alone at her own wedding. Another message followed. Your mom is in pieces. She keeps trying to call you. Grandma said, a wedding without her big brother, how could it ever feel complete? Daniel let the phone rest in his lap, the words echoing in his mind. Grandma, who used to scold him for being too quiet or too serious, now wondering why he wasn't there. His mother, who had told him not to overreact. Sophie, who had pushed him out for the sake of harmony. And now, all of them reaching for him, too late. He looked out at the sea. The sky was deepening, streaked with the softest lavender. A breeze passed, brushing through his hair like something unspoken. He felt no triumph, no justice, only the stillness of truth, the kind that didn't need noise to be real. He thought of how often he'd been the one to patch, to calm, to carry, and how, even now, he was being asked to step in and pick up the broken pieces. But this time, he didn't move. He let the tide carry the silence forward, let the unanswered messages remain just that. And for the first time, he allowed the world to fall apart, without him. The wedding venue, once dressed in soft ivory linens and candlelight, now felt hollow, like a stage left behind after the final act. Plates were half filled, wine glasses still trembling slightly from being hastily set down. The band had stopped playing long ago. Silence, thick and strained, hung in the air. Daniela, Daniel's mother, stood near the buffet table, her voice rising sharper than anyone had ever heard it. DeClara stood across from her, arms crossed, eyes tired but fierce. You told her not to invite him, Clara said, almost a whisper, but every syllable struck like a bell. It wasn't my choice, Daniela snapped. She said she wanted a peaceful day. Clara stepped forward. And did she get that peace? You thought removing him would fix things? He's held that girl together more times than she knows. Guests looked away awkwardly. A couple slipped out the side door, muttering something about catching an early flight. Someone tried to calm the tension by restarting the playlist. It was a poor cover. The bar had closed 30 minutes early. Staff were already clearing the table centerpieces. No one danced. No one toasted. In the bridal suite upstairs, Sophie sat on the floor, her mascara smeared, sobbing into a silk robe that was no longer white. She clutched her phone with both hands, staring at the blank screen, as if willing someone to text her something that would undo it all. This isn't how it was supposed to be, she kept repeating. None of this is my fault. Lydia sat quietly near the door, watching the scene. She didn't speak. Not until Sophie's sobs had slowed into hiccuped silence. Then, gently, almost apologetically, she said, "Everyone's saying it now, sophomore grandma. Aunt Clara. Even your mom." She paused. They all say, if Daniel had been here, maybe things wouldn't have fallen apart like this. Sophie looked up. Her eyes were wide and red, but for the first time, she didn't say anything. And downstairs, the candles flickered in the draft of an open door. The morning sun over Tulum poured through the sheer curtains, golden and weightless, brushing across Daniel's bare chest as he sat on the edge of the balcony. His coffee had gone cold. The ocean moved with slow certainty below, whispering things he finally had time to hear. His phone lit up. "Sophie, I was wrong. Please call me." Just 6 words, but they hung in the air like an apology whispered too late at a train station already empty. Daniel stared at the message for a long while. Not with anger, not with longing, just with a kind of quiet disbelief. She had reached out. She had said what he'd waited years to hear. But instead of relief, all he felt was stillness. Because something had changed. He didn't reply. Instead, he opened Instagram, scrolled past a photo of the beach he had taken at sunrise, and began to type. "Everyone is a stranger if they don't know how to cherish you." He hit post, set the phone face down, and leaned back into the chair. The breeze touched his skin like reassurance. For the first time in years, there was no weight on his shoulders, no invisible debt he owed to keep the family together, no quiet ache waiting for someone to acknowledge his place. He wasn't angry anymore. That part had passed. What replaced it wasn't revenge, or even sadness. It was something more solid. A knowing. A boundary that didn't need defending. He watched a couple walk by below, laughing, their bare feet kicking up sand. He didn't envy them. He didn't feel alone. Because now, Daniel understood, peace doesn't always come from forgiving others. Sometimes, it comes from releasing yourself, from stepping away from pain you've been conditioned to accept over and over again. He wasn't running. He wasn't punishing anyone. He had simply chosen himself. And somehow, that felt like the most radical kind of love he'd ever known. Daniel sat quietly on the balcony of the quiet resort, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the wooden floor. His phone buzzed again. It was Lydia calling. He answered, voice calm but curious. "Dan," Lydia began hesitantly, "I wanted to tell you what happened after you left. Henry, the groom, said something really harsh. He said Sophie only cared about the image she was projecting, not the people who truly love her." Daniel's heart tightened in an unexpected way. He had always thought the conflict was simply about him, about his absence. But hearing it from Lydia made it clearer. Sophie was trapped in her own struggles, caught between appearances and reality, unable to see or accept the support she had. Lydia's voice softened. Aunt Clara messaged me to... She said it was the first time your mom admitted she was wrong about not inviting you. But she also said she still hopes you'll come back to fix things, to bring peace." Daniel sat back, the weight of their words settling deeply within him. For years, he had felt invisible, just the fixer in the background, the one who cleaned up after storms but was never truly part of the calm. And now, for the first time, they recognized what he meant to the family, not just as a helper, but as someone whose presence truly mattered. But the recognition came late, and Daniel knew something had shifted inside himself too. He wasn't sure if he was ready to go back just yet. The scars were still fresh, and forgiveness wasn't something that could be rushed or demanded. He realized that being seen was important, but being valued, truly valued, was something he needed to find first within himself. As the sun dipped lower, Daniel felt a quiet strength growing inside him. He listened to Lydia's words, not with bitterness or regret, but with a gentle understanding. Maybe this was the beginning of something new, not just for his family but for himself. For the first time in a long time, he felt a fragile hope. Daniel stared at the blinking cursor on his phone screen for a long moment before finally typing, slowly, carefully, like placing stones across a river he no longer intended to cross. "You didn't lose me at the wedding. You lost me the moment you dismissed the kindness I gave freely." He read it twice. It didn't come from anger. It came from a place of quiet clarity. There was no bitterness left in him, only a quiet ache, like the echo of a song that used to mean something. He pressed send. Then, without hesitation, he opened his contact list and began blocking the numbers one by one. His mother, Sophie, Clara, even his grandmother. Not out of cruelty, but from necessity. It wasn't rejection, it was release. When he was done, he set the phone down, screen facing the table, and exhaled slowly. He stepped barefoot onto the warm sand, the late sun painting the ocean in soft gold. The waves rolled in gentle rhythm, and the wind carried no expectations, no blame. Just the clean scent of salt and something new. Daniel closed his eyes. The tension in his shoulders began to ease, not all at once, but enough to notice. He let the sound of the sea fill the silence where family voices used to echo. Each breath in felt like claiming a space that was finally, fully his. He wasn't returning to the role they had always cast him in, the peacekeeper, the silent one who bore the weight so no one else had to. That version of him had been slowly dissolving with every choice he made since the wedding invitation never came. "I'm not the shadow at someone else's celebration," he whispered to himself, as a breeze lifted his hair. "I am my own presence in a place I chose." And just like that, something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with the stillness of someone finally choosing themselves, not as an act of defiance, but of quiet truth. If you've ever been dismissed or overlooked by your own family, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below. You'll be heard here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more touching true stories like this.